Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. That was the old OTASCO building in downtown Tulsa, and it was
And I think I'm going to start with some of the pictures of the original building. I'm going to pull some of those up real
oh
quick.
yeah, memories.
Uh huh. Now, I came in on
There
this
it is.
project pretty late. You already had a really good concept of what was going to go on in this project by the time I came in. And my capacity was essentially providing construction documents for your client, um, and taking your concepts and making them permittable to say,
Yeah.
I guess. And you always start with this question of what if. So I'm going to see if I can get to I'm going to get to these site images here or not. Okay, so this was kind of where we started. We've got our site here, and we had some other nodes downtown that created these pathways here. And essentially, what happened is we took this Chamber of Commerce building, and what did it become? Through the process of us kind of sitting and just having a jam session. This is an architectural jam session that we really had, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah,
Those
it
are
was.
always fun. You look forward
It
to
was a
those
lot.
in a project. So what do you remember that what became of this? Like in terms of
Yeah.
we started out as okay, we need a public physical building for Chamber of Commerce. What else does the Chamber of Commerce mean to the city of Bixby? And that just kind of turned into this. Do you remember kind of some of the things that happened with this?
Yeah. Yeah, it was taking that, uh, the Dollar Tree or whatever it was, as taking that centerpiece and creating an east-west pedestrian uh, tree-lined event, through the parking lot and changing the parking lot so that there's more vegetation in it, trees, and really making it a pleasant place to park and just instead of a sea of asphalt out there. You and I talked about that and what happens when you come into the place. How do you feel orientated? What's in the big blue area there that's hatched in the middle? And the south side, if I remember right, uh, was off of an alleyway. So that would be a more walled section where windows out there would be limited to high clear story.
Yeah,
And
there's a building. You talk about this street side here or the alley back here?
the east west kind of alleyway. The
Yeah, yeah.
the true alley is the north south one in the back
Oh
with all
yeah,
the
yeah.
utilities and crap.
Yeah,
But
so this is actually like grease traps and stuff from a restaurant back here down in this
yeah,
alley. So how do you make this a path that people want to traverse when you've
right,
got grease traps and trash bins and things like that all out the back.
right. So I mean, you gotta figure out how is there landscaping opportunities? That's what the trees, you know, indicate. What kind of an environment on the wall do you provide where people don't mind walking past it,
Yeah,
getting it through?
and and these are all things that we propose in the vacuum of nobody else there to agree with us
Right,
or
right.
disagree with us. More importantly, that they can't disagree with us because you asked a very important question when we started this, and it's a question that you start most of your projects with, which is what? Do you
You
remember?
say it.
What if?
Yeah. What if?
What if this wasn't an alley? What if this is, excuse me, something where the artists in Bixby come to celebrate their passion, and then
Right.
the people who appreciate art now have a place where they can walk through from. Um, there's a prominent food truck company that has an office right over here, and it's a barbecue food truck. And he often, the idea is, okay, let's have them park here next to the party deck, and then we
Yeah.
can make this side of the building. It's a safe pedestrian alley. Walking down to there's a Charles Page Park, I think it's Charlie Page Park down here in downtown Bixby. And then there's shops and vending right here. There's another parking lot here, and that was property that we can't really touch, but we use the opportunity of the building in the alley to create a pathway that actually connects the rest of downtown into uses this building to connect two parts of downtown Bixby, which
Right.
I thought was a great idea. And this unfortunately was one of those clients that you never really hear back from, so you don't know if it was
Right.
your ideas or the budget. But this was a fun project to collaborate on, even if it was very short lived, because you can take some of these ideas and reuse them. This is how you develop your ideas. You just have these jam sessions,
Mm-hmm.
and you keep your drawings, right?
Amen.
Always keep your drawings, because you never know when you're going to come back and do this, or you can use some of this stuff. This project hasn't been built. It might come back. In fact, what's really funny, I don't know if I told you this, I got contacted by another client in downtown Bixby. Who's renovating. It's a very large client in downtown Bixby, who is building a new headquarters. And one of the functions that they wanted in that space was public space for the Bixby Chamber of Commerce to use. So,
Oh, wow. This is great.
So who knows? It could come back all the way around, and we end up doing the project through another client. So you never know when some of this stuff comes around. So what's really interesting about this art crawl, this art walk that's in here, is you had the same concept in another project that you and I collaborated on.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. That was the old OTASCO building in downtown Tulsa, and it was
And I think I'm going to start with some of the pictures of the original building. I'm going to pull some of those up real quick.
Yeah. Memories.
Now, I came in on
There
this
it
project pretty late. You already had a really good concept of what was going to go on in this project by the time I came in. And my capacity was essentially providing construction documents for your client, and taking your concepts and making them permittable, to say,
Yeah.
I guess.
Sure.
But, man, this is another building where, how do you draw inspiration from it in its existing condition?
Right, right. It really does. I don't think I can ever emphasize it enough. Is that kind of where we started in the beginning of our conversation, and it's been kind of a hallmark between us, and that is passion. Passion is a very interesting thing because it's like the tide. It comes and goes, and there's a beauty in the both phases, the come and the go. But if you're passionate about our deal about architecture, then it's your library. And where do you seek your inspiration from? And when you need it, like on a building like this, you need it. And some, like the Bixby project, you need a lot of it, and you need it to be really creative. And for any of you that are listening to this, one of my favorite creatives that I still draw inspiration from all the time is Samuel Mockbee, and he's passed away. And John Freer has taken that studio and continued it.
I took classes from one of his students, one of Sam Mockbee's students. So I was
Yeah.
very fortunate to have kind of like that second link connection
Yeah.
to
Uh,
Sambo, and yeah, I can't stress enough to go look up the work of the Rural Workshop. It's Rural Workshop,
yes.
right? Pretty sure that's what
Yep.
it's called.
Rural
Out of
workshop.
Auburn.
Rural
Is it
Studio.
Auburn University?
Yep. In
Yeah.
Alabama.
Yep.
And Samuel Lockby had this dream that he was going to practice architecture in the poorest county in Alabama. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. None. Zero. He ends up doing amazing work and with nothing.
It really
And
is.
inspiring everyone that even comes around and bringing life back to a community that had never had much hope to begin with. And whatever they had was lost.
And so
And there was no money.
yeah, go ahead. So I think this is something that I want this series to kind of focus on, because how many people who are going to watch this? Let's assume a vast majority of the architectural industry watches this video globally. I know that's a stretch goal for me.
That's a
Okay,
big dream.
but let's assume that. How many of those people, percentage-wise, do you think have ever heard of Samuel Lockby?
Very few. Very, very, very few. Maybe 3-4%, maybe.
Would you
Yeah.
would you call him a starchitect?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would.
one hundred
There's no
percent.
question about it because his dream, again, the dream was so magnificent that he wanted to challenge all of us. And I really believe that when you listen to his videos and you listen and see what he did and what the legacy that he's left, that even when you have nothing, you can do great architecture. And some of the greatest work, his clientele were poor. They're not the rich. They were poor. And he lifted them up
Well, it,
with,
I think if you look at most of Samuel's work, the client was never the individual. It was always the building always affected the community.
mhm.
Whether it was the community of homeless or the community of students who were taking his inspiration and branching out and taking that into their careers. I mean, think of the students that went to that program who are now sharing that same type of dream and motivation with every client that they're working with, whether it be a
Yeah.
corporate or down in a low income community or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's I think an important point for students who think that you have to have this grand world famous name and title. I mean, here in Tulsa, how many people do you think know who Bruce Goff is? I mean, it's
It's a low number, but it's maybe a little
a
higher
little
than
higher than
Samuel's.
Samuel Mockbee, right? But the point is that you can be a rural architect and nobody knows who you are except the clients, and you can still be
Yeah.
a great architect, and you can be
Yeah.
inspiration to people and help the community. It doesn't have to be a building that's featured in Architectural Digest or that is taught in architectural history books or anything like that, because that gets into a completely different topic of we teach what's marketed to us, right?
Right.
Not necessarily the lessons that you need to know or should know, but
Right.
the ones that make it into the history book. So anyway,
Well, that is a little segue on that real quick is that maybe that's one of the inspirational projects that this Coffee with Creatives is, addresses and inspires, this kind of thinking in others so that they'll start to pick up on the things that were missed.
that's the
You
hope.
know,
That's the
that
hope.
would be great.
So,
But I mean, this building right here, sometimes uh, during this process and even before it, go, where's the OTASCO? Who? Nobody could describe the OTASCO building. It disappears. You don't even recognize it, And the other neat thing about it is the mayor's office looks right down on top of this building. And all the building inspectors, when they leave for the day or come back to the office at night, pass by the OTASCO building.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this up because I don't think we have any real good photos of the buildings that surround this to give context. Let's see if I can find it. There's Fazler. We all know where Fazler Hall is. Okay. So here's Tulsa City Hall, Tulsa Performing Arts Center, the Williams Center One Oak Building. I'm going to drop. Let's drop the screaming orange guy down here, right here. So there's the OTASCO. Oh, look, we've got updated photos. That's, I think, about where the building sits right now, too. So this is the dirty icebox, right?
Yep.
There we go. That's the Tulsa Government Building right there. There's BOK Tower, One Oak Tower, BOK Tower. It's not One Oak Tower. It's BOK Tower, right? Yeah.
Okay.
And then this is the Performing Arts Center, which I don't know. You go there for shows. You go there for shows. You don't go there. Oh, Hamilton. Hamilton was on when we did this. Oh, look at that. So this was kind of the context that we had to deal with. We had to work with
and
when
then
we were
there's
doing
a parking
this.
lot across the front of this.
Yes, and I've got so one of the things that I want to go through here real quick, and I don't think there's a really good way to do this because I've got renderings, but we also have as we were working on this, Rose, who used to work with me, did some great photo matching of some renderings that we did with this just as the process was going along. So we were able to see exactly what this form was going to look like. With shadows and everything, time of day, from these photos. So this is that parking lot that you're talking about right here.
Right.
And there's the building.
Yep.
I love that she put these plants up here.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to your renderings here in a little bit, but rooftop. This is what the roof looked like before we got a hold of it. And then there's your rooftop garden dining space.
Yep.
And then I think let's go look at some of your original concept renderings. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Let's go. Just scroll through these. Okay. So this was OTASCO was an old auto service store basically. And that business model clearly didn't work anymore downtown.
Right.
So your client came to you and said what?
That his hope is to add this to his project immediately to the east, which is off the screen on the right-hand side.
Right. The Blue Dome Cafe
across
area.
the alley there that you see.
Yep.
And a Blue Dome building. And this would be filled with boutique, retail, and restaurant activity. So the upper floor there was to be a restaurant for sure, and possibly a coffee shop or some kind of restaurant here on the corner on the lower floor where you see the umbrellas. And on the lower floor on the right-hand side would be some retail, as well as the corner, street corner itself would be retail. So the vertical dark element in the center right there was to be the vertical circulation between the upper restaurant and below. And so another thing that the client did that is super commendable is that garden space there, that exterior garden area, that's a whole lot. It's a site in itself.
It's parking.
And he
It's paid
chose,
parking
yeah,
right
it's a
now.
parking lot. And so he chose to convert that to public uh, space, which most developers wouldn't do. And
It's a
they would
risk.
put it into building and get higher rent per square foot on it. And but he made a brilliant choice to do that. Um, and he was a great advocate of the upper dining space having a garden area up there. And that would come in different sizes or diminishment or whatever. But we struck a great compromise. And so there was this appearance of green that would be seen from below and also enjoyed by patrons up on the second deck. So, and then he, the third thing that he did that was pretty phenomenal, that I gave him great high marks for, was the decision to redo the alley. And it's in pretty bad shape. And so he, that was a part of the proposal, is redoing that alley and making it more pedestrian friendly. And very, 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 very smart decision. We hope to be able to show you in the future the next layer of proposal for that alley, and that being a what if project. So there's a great, great designer in Tulsa, and her name is Jasmine Ricken, and she really is a great, she's the lead on that. And she's got a host of fantastic ideas that we worked on together for that alley. And hopefully Carl and I, and maybe even Jasmine, will be able to share that with everyone at a future date.
That'd be awesome. So, and Jasmine is someone who you've recommended to talk to, possibly coming on our show in a later episode. So hopefully
Yes.
that's something
Yeah.
we can do. I don't know if I guess I had those pictures in there twice. I was like, did I loop back around? So, so I think it's interesting that if we look at this corner here, this
Mm-hmm.
changed quite a bit from this original concept, didn't it?
Yeah, there's a whole story behind that about the 45-degree angle, which is the current design. We don't have that ready to show yet, but that there's a huge teaching moment in that area of working with the city, being able to uh, work with a lot of different departments, get agreements, and then be able to have even changes after that. And how do you navigate that minefield and still leave everybody in a positive space? And that the project isn't hurt by that compromise, uh, and that everybody walks away feeling that they have really won, and they have. And so that could be another, um,
Whole other discussion.
yeah, a whole nother discussion, because I think that's the value spots that, a lot of times when you start working at a firm, you don't get to be a part of that stuff. That's really done by senior people. And so sometimes you hear the story, sometimes you don't. There was kind of, as director of design at CwC, that was something that I tried very hard to do, is you always come back and tell your war story, tell your stories. And that's the most important thing as far as we need to get back into as a society and as a practice, is tell the stories. Everybody learns a ton by the stories. They might not have been able to get there. They may just like our great great forefathers, and maybe they weren't on the hunt, but they got to hear about the hunt, and they dreamed of the day of being out on the hunt
For
around
sure.
that bonfire. And we need to tell the stories so everybody gets to participate at different levels and learn. It is crucial to our humanity that we readopt that and start telling our stories, sharing our stories. It brings us closer, makes us a whole heck of a lot smarter, and makes us a lot more creative, intuitive, and it takes care of a lot of negative discourse if we
For
just tell
sure.
our stories.
So, and that's one of the things that DZYN.Studio is about, right? Is making sure that the story
Yep.
for each project is told. So, and I left
Yep.
this picture up for a reason because one of the stories of this project is the structural story.
Yeah.
Because there were some heroes that worked on this. Because I mean, we literally raised the roof on this, right?
Yep.
And you took a non-structural roof. Well, I mean, it's structural, right? But
Right.
you wouldn't put 75 people eating dinner on top of the existing roof, right? So we
No.
had to restructure that. And I keep saying I'm using the royal we here, Chester. Um,
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with any of that coordination, with the exception of the construction document side. You had all of this taken care of, and that overhang, that awning, well, all the
Yeah.
awnings on this building are structural miracles, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Um, you want to talk about that a little bit, like who worked on it, and kind of do the DZYN.Studio thing?
Well, yeah, uh, I think that number one, architecture, uh, architecture at its best is a group sport. It's